The war room was silent, too silent. Thick walls of steel held back the hum of the ship's engines. A long table stretched down the center, surrounded by officers from Earth's Joint Command. Most wore dark blue uniforms, polished badges, and heavy eyes. Screens glowed with battle reports, troop losses, and scattered alien broadcasts. But no one spoke. Then the door slammed open. Commander Drail of the Waitari Coalition, an alien ally covered in dark armor and scars, marched in. His wide shoulders brushed the doorway. His skin was scaled like iron, eyes deep and cold. He didn't greet anyone, didn't sit. He dropped a thin photo folder onto the table. It slid across the metal with a hiss and stopped in front of General Maeve Lynn, Earth's top strategist. She opened it. Inside was a single photo, grainy, zoomed in, and glowing faintly. It showed a young human woman, maybe mid-20s, standing alone in the middle of a destroyed alien battlefield. Bodies around her, weapons scattered, and on her neck, a glowing mark that none of them recognized. "She's not in any military roster," Drail growled. "It's not Earth's, not ours, not anyone's. No records, no ID. But every alien commander we've lost in the last 6 months, she was there." General Lin frowned. "Are you saying this girl caused the collapses on Vesh, Salark, and Erelon Prime?" "I'm not saying," Drail replied. "I'm showing you what we found. She doesn't speak. She doesn't fire weapons. She just walks onto the battlefield, and people start running." Another officer leaned forward. She could be a ghost, a rogue agent, set up by the alien. Blocks. Drail slammed a clawed fist onto the table, denting the steel. "My soldiers don't fear shadows, but they fear her. It's the mark she carries. They say it's older than your planet." Everyone fell silent again. On one screen, security footage began to play. The woman in the photo walked slowly across a destroyed bridge, her leather jacket stained with dust and blood. Her face was calm, no fear, no expression. Alien troops aimed at her and lowered their weapons and fled. "Her name?" Len asked. "No one knows," Drail answered. "But the Zathari call her Ash's Flame. The mech say she is the echo of death. The Talrune call her the one who ended the first cycle." Lin's jaw tightened. "Those are myths. Ancient nonsense." "Then explain this," Drail snapped. "3 of our top fleets retreated when she appeared. Full retreat without a shot. We're losing control. Not to a war, but to a rumor." A low beep echoed in the room. The intelligence officer, Colonel Brandt, tapped his screen. "Ma'am, we just got a location ping. High orbit over Lunar Station 4. A lone signal, moving fast. It matches the energy signature from her mark." Everyone stood at once. "Scramble recon teams," Lin ordered. "Get boots on the moon. Now, I want her found to live. No one touches her without my order." Drail stepped closer. "You won't survive this game, General. That mark, whatever it is, terrifies entire civilizations. If she's from Earth, then you've been hiding a god." Lin's stare was hard. "Earth doesn't create gods. We bury them." The room broke into movement. Alarms sounded. Officers shouted commands. Ships prepared to launch. But no one noticed the faint buzz in the speaker above the room. A sound too soft to hear with normal ears. Hidden signal, old and buried deep in Earth's systems. It said ashfall detected. Protocol awaken. 10 hours later, the recon team landed on Lunar Station 4. The base was quiet. Too quiet. Reyes scanned the empty hallways, his visor fogging slightly with his breath. No life signs, no comes. But something's here. I feel it. He moved carefully, rifle raised. Lights flickered overhead. Level 2 communications. Core. The door slid open. Inside the cum room stood a woman. She didn't move. She didn't speak.
"Oh."
She just stared at the soldiers entering the room. Her face was soft, calm, almost sad. She wore a brown leather jacket, dusty boots, and a black sweater. Under it, no armor. No gun. But on her neck, the glowing mark pulsed slowly. Blue, then red, then gold. Private Reyes froze. He lowered his weapon without knowing why. His teammates followed, breath shaking. "She's here," one of them whispered. The woman tilted her head slightly. She looked at them like she had seen them before, like she already knew what they would do. Her lips moved, barely go. That was all she said, and the lights went out. The entire lunar station lost power. In every corner of space, long-dormant satellites blinked alive. Across the galaxy, ancient servers sent silent alerts. On forgotten alien ruins, symbols matching her mark began to glow once more. Back on Earth, General Lin stared at her screen. As a system override forced its way into their database, it displayed one word in a language no one had seen before, but Drail recognized it. "It means reset," he said. "You've awakened it." Lin stood slowly, heart pounding. She wasn't on any roster because she never needed one. Drail nodded grimly. Because that mark isn't human. Somewhere in deep space, the mech emperor stirred from cryosleep. His mind connected to 1,000 war machines. He saw the glowing symbol, remembered the old stories, and trembled. "It returns," he whispered. "And this time, Earth carries it." The battlefield on Calor 9 burned like a dying star. Smoke filled the air. Alien bodies lay scattered among broken tanks and shattered bunkers. The sky above was black with ash, and the ground shook every few minutes with distant blasts. Yutari Coalition had been holding the line here for 10 days against the Grawl, a brutal alien race known for using living weapons and swarm tactics. Inside the command bunker, Sergeant Kree, a hardened alien sniper with gray skin and glowing green eyes, loaded his rifle and adjusted his scope. "We won't last another hour," he muttered. The growl brought tunnel beasts. "Once they break the trench wall, we're done." Beside him, Lieutenant Vero looked at a shaky live feed from a nearby drone. He tapped the screen. "Hold on." Kree looked. A lone figure walked through the outer field straight into the war zone. No armor, no weapon, just a dark jacket, dust-covered pants, and a steady pace. The wind whipped her brown hair around her face as the snow-like ash fell over her shoulders. Eyes didn't blink, her hands were empty. But on her neck, the strange glowing mark shone bright even through the smoke. "Zoom in," Kree said quickly. The drone camera pushed closer. "Human," Vero whispered. "No helmet, no squad," Kree added. "She'll be dead in 5 seconds." But then something strange happened. The growled tunnel beasts, massive armored creatures with 10 legs and razor, charged burst from the dirt ahead of her. The soldiers in the bunker reached for the alarm, but before anyone could react, the beasts froze. They screeched in pain, backed away from her, then turned and fled underground. All of them, the battlefield fell quiet. "Did she stop them?" Vero asked, confused. Kree swallowed hard. "No, she scared them." Up in orbit, the human ship Orion Star watched the same feed. General Lin stood silently in the command center, hands behind her back, eyes locked on the screen. She had seen a lot in her career: Relian wars, planet-wide evacuations, ships split in half by plasma storms, but nothing like this. "She doesn't even flinch," one technician said. "It's like the battlefield doesn't exist to her." Lin spoke quietly. "She's not walking through the battle. She's ending it just by being there." The drone feed continued. The woman stepped past wreckage, through clouds of gas and over burnt ground, without pausing. Growl soldiers hiding in trenches ran away when they saw her. Even their combat drones shut down and dropped. No weapons fired, no words spoken. Only the glow of her mark, down below. In the bunker, Kree did something he hadn't done in 20 years. He backed away from the window. "I saw that mark once," he said. "Long ago, during the Ashfall offensive." A single figure walked across the battlefield, and every Armagrawl, Yutari, even rogue humans, stopped firing. Vero frowned, but that was a myth. He said it was a coded hallucination, a weaponized illusion. Kree shook his head. "No illusion walks across live fire without blinking." "She's heading toward the old relay station," Vero said. "That place was abandoned for years, until now." At the old relay station, rusted doors slid open by themselves. Inside, Lights turned on, systems that hadn't worked in decades suddenly came to life. Screens blinked. Power flowed from deep underground sources that should have been dry. The air grew colder, but the energy grew stronger. She stepped inside. Her boots echoed across the steel floor. The mark on her neck pulsed in rhythm with the humming walls. The central control terminal lit up, revealing a single message in an ancient alien script. She read it silently. Then she placed her hand on the console. A shockwave burst outward, not destructive, but powerful. It swept through the planet's magnetic field and shot into space. Satellites picked it up. Alien empires felt it. Deep space sensors glit, and far across the galaxy. Old enemies froze in place. The mark had spoken. On the Growl command ship hovering above the battlefield, panic broke out. General Skarn, a four-eyed reptilian overlord, stared at the sudden alerts on his screen. "Why is my army retreating? Who gave that order?" One of his aides stammered. No one gave it. They saw her. Skarn's eyes narrowed. Who? The screen flickered. There she was, standing alone in the middle of the battlefield. No gun. No shield, just the glowing mark. Skarn dropped his staff. It's her. The flame carrier. The last signal. He pressed a button. Order all forces to pull back now. "But sir, we outnumber them," I said. "Retreat. Back on Earth?" In the underground data core of Terran Command, alarms began flashing. Colonel Brandt ran down the hallway toward the archive vault. He had just received a code 1 that hadn't been used in over 50 years. A shell-1. It wasn't just a warning. It was a call to remember. Brandt opened a sealed vault. Inside were dusty files, locked drives, and one ancient device glowing with the same mark the woman had on her neck. Project Ashfall, he whispered. She wasn't created by Earth's armies. She was buried, so no one would ever find her. Meanwhile, the woman stood on the rooftop of the relay station, looking up at the stars. Her face showed no emotion, but her mark glowed bright. Against the cold air, she knew they were watching Earth. The aliens, the old machines, they all feared her. She closed her eyes and whispered, something no microphone could catch, but the machines heard it and they obeyed in. The shadows of space, a derelict ship drifted silently for decades. Suddenly it lit up, its engines roaring to life, systems restored. Its destination locked, coordinates Earth. Inside that ship were weapons, built not by humans or aliens, but by something older, something that had waited, and now it was awake because she had returned. The woman with no name, no records, no army, but a mark every living thing in the galaxy recognized and feared. The file was hidden, deep buried under false names, fake missions, and erased histories. Only one man still knew where it was. Colonel Brandt stood in a cold, dark archive chamber under Terran High Command. The place hadn't been touched in decades. Dust covered the shelves. The air smelled like rust and secrets. He unlocked a heavy steel drawer with his old clearance code. OSH-14X. It beeped. The drawer slid open. Inside lay a thin silver box marked with a strange symbol no one used anymore. Not military. Not science. It looked almost ancient, but smooth, glowing faintly blue. Brandt opened the box. A voice message auto-played. If you are hearing this, then the last flame has awakened. Project Ashfall has failed containment. God help us all. Brandt froze. He remembered that voice. It belonged to General Vickers, the man who disappeared 32 years ago, during a mission that never appeared on any Earth record. A man declared dead in a training accident, though there was no body and no funeral. Brandt pulled out a hard drive from the box and slammed it into the archive console. A black screen lit up. Project Ashfall, forbidden access, genetic class, exohybrid status, terminated, failed, last known subject, flame -7. There she was, a young woman in a leather jacket, same face, same eyes. But her file called her something else. Subject name: Eva. Meanwhile, far from Earth, the alien leader Skarn. sat frozen in his throne room aboard the Growl command cruiser. He stared at the hologram of the woman Eva. "Impossible," he whispered. "She survived." One of his guards asked, "Do we strike?" "No," Skarn said quickly. "She was part of Earth's forbidden project. Not even. The humans could control her. The last time she appeared, 6 empires signed surrender treaties without firing a shot." He walked to the star map, eyes dark with memory. "She doesn't bring war. She ends it. Entire civilizations collapse in her shadow." Back on Earth, General Lin walked into the archive room where Brant was still watching the old footage. Expression was hard. "You found her file," she said. Brant nodded slowly. "She was part of a program so secret, even you weren't cleared for it. Ashfall was a joint project between Earth and something not entirely human." Lin frowned. "Explain." Brant pressed a button. A video started playing. It showed a younger Eva, barely 20, locked in a white room. Scientists watched her behind thick glass. Electrodes were connected to her skin, and the mark on her neck flickered between blue and red. One scientist spoke into a recorder. "Subject Lam-7 continues to adapt. Neural response rate is beyond human scale. Her mark syncs with alien relics. She is not just part of the weapon, she is the weapon." The screen glitched. Static. Then another clip. Eva stood in the middle of a destroyed lab. Fires burned behind her. Dead bodies on the ground. No visible injuries, no blood on her hands. But everything around her was ruined. "She walked out of the facility alone," Brant said, "and no one dared stop her. The government sealed the project, burned every record, said it never happened." Lin's voice was low. "Until now." Brant looked up at her. "She's not just a super soldier. The mark chose her. The flame is older than Earth. It was waiting for someone." Across the galaxy, in the lost ruins, a Voltraxis, an ancient AI core, came online. It hadn't spoken in over 10,000 years. Its glowing red eye flickered as it scanned galactic data streams. "Flame signature detected. Status: reactivation complete. Response protocol: Bow." The massive machines guarding the ruins slowly knelt, their ancient limbs creaking in the silence. They had one directive: never oppose the bearer of the flame, and now she had returned. Back on Calor 9, Eva walked through a hidden cave system under the old relay station. Her footsteps echoed softly as she reached a sealed chamber. Symbols lined the walls, alien markings, long forgotten by living species. The chamber opened at her presence. Inside stood a floating cube, pulsing with golden light. She reached out. The mark on her neck matched its rhythm. When her hand touched it, the cube opened, and from within, a voice spoke not through air, but through thought. "You are the last carrier. The others are gone. The cycle begins again. Burn what must be burned." She didn't speak. She only nodded once. The ground shook outside the station. The sky cracked with lightning. Flame had spoken across dimensions. Old powers were now aware. Back at Terran Command, Lin stood before the High Council. "There is no stopping her," she said. "We have to find out why she returned. She's waking up old systems. We may have a bigger problem than the Growl." One counselor leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we work with her?" Lin paused. "She may be our only chance to survive what's coming," another counselor asked. "And if she turns on us?" Brant answered for her. "Then it's already too late." On a moon orbiting a red star, a criminal empire called the Caner met in secret. Their leader, cruel warlord with cybernetic eyes, watched footage of Eva. "The marked one has returned," he growled. The stories were true. He turned to his assassins. "I want her captured, alive. The flame belongs to no one. And if we can steal it—" He didn't finish the sentence, because in that moment, every screen in the room shut off, and one message appeared. "The flame cannot be stolen, only respected." The room went silent, and the warlord suddenly looked very afraid. Back on Earth, in a dark room filled with ancient tech, Eva sat alone, her eyes closed. Her breathing slow. She had returned for a reason, and something terrible was coming. She could feel it. The mark on her neck glowed brighter, now warning her, calling her. The galaxy remembered her name. Eva, the last flame. The forgotten project. The weapon Earth once tried to hide, and now desperately needed again. The artificial mind known as Corsavan was designed to fear nothing. It was built inside a deep space station near the edge of the galaxy, far from any planet. Its job was simple: control and direct over 2 million combat drones, scan all communication waves, and respond instantly to threats. Cold, fast, unstoppable, until now. At 0400 hours, something strange entered Core 7's awareness. A signal. Very old. Hidden in a wave no modern computer should detect. It wasn't an attack or a virus. It was a presence. The signal didn't try to take over. It didn't threaten. It simply showed an image. A human woman with a glowing mark on her neck. Core 7. Didn't understand why, but it froze. Every drone across its command network went dark for 7 seconds. Every subroutine slowed down. Every memory trace pulled forward one word, locked deep inside its most ancient storage file. Flame. Suddenly, Core-7 ran a full self-diagnostic, then a second, then a third. Its final log, recorded before shutting down, read, Directive Breach. Protocol, Omega Override. Do not engage the marked entity. And Core 7 powered off, and for the first time in 100 years, silence returned to the edge of the galaxy. Far away, back on Earth, General Lin stood in front of the war table inside the Terran command bunker. A large holographic map of the galaxy hovered in the air, glowing blue. Several sectors now blinked red. Colonel Brandt walked in, holding a report. General, we lost contact with Core 7. All drones offline. No signal. Nothing left. Lin's eyes narrowed. Enemy hack. Brandt shook his head. No, it shut itself. Down, after seeing her. He tapped the screen, bringing up an image of Eva, the same glowing mark, same blank expression. She didn't send a code. She didn't fire a weapon. The AI just stopped. Another officer nearby looked pale. I saw this once before, during the Vorn protocol test. Back then, another AI system did the same thing. After seeing that mark, Lin stepped closer. Wow. What are these machines afraid of? Brandt didn't answer, because he didn't know Eva sat quietly on a cold stone bench in the abandoned relay station on Kaler 9. The walls still hummed softly with energy. Around her, old machines blinked slowly. Systems that hadn't worked in centuries were now awake. Watching her silently, she didn't speak. She didn't need to. The machines already knew who she was. One small drone hovered nearby. Its lights, blinking nervously, it was a caretaker unit. It's designed to clean and maintain systems, not fight. It chirped a warning at her, not in anger, but in fear. Its sensors read the energy from the mark on her neck and tried to back away, but it COULDN single quotes. Instead, it floated to her feet and shut itself off. Eva stared at the dark drone and whispered, "You remember me?" The chamber echoed with silence, and somewhere deeper in the station, a massive vault door slowly creaked open. Inside the vault was a chamber filled with ancient tech. Walls covered in metal vines, power cores pulsing with golden light, and in the center a pedestal holding a black cube. Eva stepped forward. The mark on her neck began to glow, reacting to the cube's energy. She reached out. The cube opened, and a hologram of a long-dead AI spoke. Flame 7, last of the chosen. You were not meant to return. But now the galaxy turns again. The void wakes. The machines remember their fear. Eva didn't speak. She placed her hand on the pedestal. Suddenly her mind filled with ancient memories, not hers, but the cube's. Flashes of war. Alien cities burning. Machines fighting each other. Planets falling. All because of the flame. Her flame. Back on Earth. Panic was spreading through Earth's network, one by one. AI systems across different colonies were shutting themselves down. Civilian drones, military bots, even smart traffic. Controls. They all refused to operate when her signal passed through. The message was clear: do not engage. Inside Terran Command, a young tech officer ran up to General Lin. "Ma'am, we tried to send recon bots to track her. They refused to leave base. We forced them, then they all self-destructed." Lin stared at him. "Why?" The officer was shaking. One of them spoke before exploding. It said, "The flame is not to be watched. She watches us." Silence filled the room. Then Brandt stepped forward. "General, this isn't just a person. She's a walking command. An ancient authority coded into the systems of the galaxy. Even machines that never met her know her. She's a living key." Lin whispered, and now the locks are opening. Across the stars, on a distant world, the mech sovereign and ancient alien AI being watched the disturbance unfold. His advisors gathered, their bodies a mix of metal and flesh. "She has returned," one said. "She is not supposed to be alive." Another whispered. The sovereign turned his glowing eyes toward the flame symbol on his screen. "We buried the flame. We erased her name. We even rewrote the machine codes to forget." Stood and still. "She is remembered." The mech sovereign bowed his head. "She is not a weapon. She is the warning before extinction." Eva walked alone through the relay station, her eyes glowing faintly now. The cube's knowledge rested in her mind. She saw flashes of a great enemy returning. Something darker than any army, the void, not a race, not a fleet, but a consuming force from beyond the stars, a force that only feared one thing: the flame. Her flame. She stopped at the edge of a large control room and stared at a screen showing stars, planets, systems. In the corner, a black wave slowly crept across the galaxy. She spoke for the first time in hours. "They're coming." And every machine in the station suddenly powered up, ready to serve, back on Earth. The council met again in panic. "She's waking machines we didn't even know existed," one said. "She's commanding AI networks from before recorded history," said another. General Lin stood calmly. "Because they were waiting for her." One counselor slammed his fist. "But she could turn on us at any second." Brandt replied, "She already could have." Everyone fell silent. "She's not our enemy," Brandt continued, "but something is. And she knows what it is." Lin nodded. "Then we need to listen, not command her. Listen." Above Earth, a hidden satellite from the old wars came online. Its systems had been dead for centuries. But the moment Ava's signal reached it, it awakened, and it whispered in the old language. "She walks again. Let the stars prepare." The Galactic Peace Summit was held inside, a crystal-like dome floating above the golden clouds of Elros III. It was a sacred place, neutral ground for all major powers. No weapons, no fleets, only leaders, silence, and uneasy trust. Inside, the air was tense. Seated around the glowing circle table were warlords, generals, council elders, and species with eyes, claws, and minds older than planets. They had come to decide the fate of dozens of star systems, maybe the galaxy itself. The Graal Empire wanted more territory. The mech offered peace but demanded control of ancient AI cores. The Tal'Run refused both and threatened war. Voices rose, fingers pointed. Screeches and words echoed across the dome in dozens of languages. Then everything stopped. A low hum filled the room. One of the Utari, Invoice, armored alien with cracked skins, stood up slowly. His voice trembled. "She's here, outside." The dome, a small ship, had docked without clearance. No guards challenged it. No weapons fired. All scans failed to read its energy. It was old, silent, empty-looking, but everyone knew who was on board. No. One tried to stop her, because they remembered the last time she came to a summit like this. 32 years ago, and what happened after Eva walked through the glowing halls of the Peace Dome. Her boots tapped softly on the crystal floor. Her jacket was still dusty, her face calm. But the mark on her neck glowed like fire behind her skin. Gold, red, then deep blue. One diplomat backed away from her in fear, whispering to his aide. She was banned from all political worlds. Why is she here now? The aide didn't answer. Because he couldn't speak inside the council chamber. A giant warlord named Durkal stood and growled. She's not welcome. This is a closed summit. General Lin, who had arrived minutes earlier, stood across from him. She had expected this reaction. She comes as a silent witness, Lin said. She is a threat, Durkal roared. We remember her mark. We remember what happened on Dro 7? Entire fleets vanished. No bodies, no remains. Lin nodded. Yes. That's why you're all here. Suddenly, Eva entered the chamber. No guards opened the doors. They opened for her. She didn't look at anyone. She simply walked to the center of the glowing floor and stood still. The room fell completely, silent. Not one voice, not one breath. Then the flame mark pulsed once, and every power in the room remembered 30-2 years ago, when the galaxy was. On the edge of a lout war, a summit had failed. Talks collapsed. Missiles were armed. Entire fleets powered their weapons. And then she arrived, alone, no fleet, no escort. Just a girl with a glowing mark, the flame. The story said she walked through the battlefield without speaking. Every ship scroll, mech, Talrun, dash, froze. Their weapons shut off. Their targeting systems failed. Some commanders claimed to see Vision's planets burning, timelines shattering, empires begging for mercy. And in all those visions, she stood at the center. After that day, the Treaty of Fire was signed. It was the only peace agreement in galactic history that never mentioned terms, just one rule. If the flame walks, we do not war. Now, she was walking again. Durkal finally sat down. He didn't blink. She does not speak, he said quietly. But her silence is louder than our weapons. The mech delegate, a being made of light and metal, turned to General Lin. Why has she returned? Lin didn't answer at first. She looked at Eva, then she looked at the map, glowing in the air above the chamber. A dark wave moved across the stars, slow, silent, unknown. We believe something is coming, Lin said. Something older than us. Something even the machines fear. She paused. And she. Eva finally raised her eyes. She didn't speak. But the mark on her neck pulsed faster. The crystal floor beneath her changed, forming a mappa, a different one. Not just of the galaxy, but beyond it. A shadow in the black, shaped like teeth. A presence without form. Across the chamber, every screen blinked red. The mech delegate whispered in its metal voice. The void. Another delegate stood in shock. We believed it was a myth. No, said Lin. She doesn't follow myths. She follows threats. The map zoomed in. Worlds were marked. Stars were already gone. Eva pointed at one. System on the edge of the wave, and a message appeared above. It, gone 3 weeks ago. The entire chamber shivered. Back on Earth, Colonel Brandt watched from the holofeed. Behind him, scientists studied ancient flame texts, decoding lines they had never seen before. One read, "The flame speaks not to warn, she speaks to end." Brandt whispered, "She doesn't negotiate, she gives choices." In the chamber, the Grail warlord Durkal stood slowly. His voice was deep now, almost humble. "Do we have a choice?" Eva looked at him, and for the first time she spoke, just one word, "Together." Then the mark on her neck flared like the sun. The map vanished. The dome shook. Outside, sky above Elrose 3 turned gold for a full minute. After that, Treaty of Fire was renewed. No one signed papers. No one gave speeches. They simply stood and bowed. The flame had returned, not to fight, but to remind them of what would happen. If they didn't, on her way out, Eva walked past the same aide who had watched her arrive. He stared at her in fear, still trembling. She stopped, looked at him, then said something quietly. "Your home world, it will be next. Tell them to leave." Then, she walked away. Back on her ship, as it moved through the stars in silence, the systems hummed with ancient power. The mark on her neck pulsed once every few seconds. A rhythm from long ago. a rhythm of warning in her mind. The memory still burned of what was coming, of what she was made to face. She didn't want to be the flame. She never asked for it, but now she had no choice. The stars were burning, and only the galaxy's greatest threat could stop what was coming. The stars were calm when she arrived. No fire, no battle, no warning. Eva stepped off her small, dark ship and walked across the landing pad of Earth's highest security station, Blackrock Command, a fortress built inside a hollow asteroid. No one expected her to come. No one summoned her. She just came. Alarms didn't ring. No defense systems activated. The entire station fell quiet the moment. Her boots touched the floor. Security bots powered down. Guards froze. Rifles held tight, but not aimed. She raised both hands slowly and said nothing. Inside the command center, Colonel Brandt stared at the screen, stunned. She turned herself in, he said. General Lin, standing beside him, narrowed her eyes. Why? She could vanish if she wanted to, Brandt replied. No one could stop her. Not even the machines. Lin crossed her arms. Then she's not here to surrender. She's here to send a message. They locked her inside Cell-1. No one else had ever been kept there. It was made of deep core alloy, strong enough to hold an exploding star. The inside was plain Obed. No screens, no sound. Just her. Eva sat in the center of the floor, cross-legged. Silent, her glowing neck mark faded to a dim orange. One camera watched her. It fed her image to every control room. No one looked away. 20. Hours passed. She did not sleep. She did not eat. She did not speak. Psychologists watched the feed and took notes. Maybe she's waiting for something, one of them said. Trigger, a command. Brandt shook his head. She doesn't need orders. She gives them. General Lin decided to go in herself. The door to Cell 1 hissed open. Eva didn't move. Lin stepped inside. No guards followed. She wanted to show respect even if she was afraid. She sat down across from Eva. Not close, not far. Just enough. Eva Lin said softly, You're not a prisoner. You walked in here, so I'll ask plainly why. Number. Answer, Lin continued. You've scared half the galaxy into silence. You shut down machines with your presence. You ended wars without firing a shot. And now you sit here, as if waiting for us to do something. Still no answer. I don't believe you came to give up, Lin said. I believe you're warning us. About the void. About the dark wave coming through the stars. Eva's eyes opened slowly. She stared at Lin. No hate, no fear. Just quiet. Lin leaned forward. Talk to me. Help us prepare. Eva looked down. Then slowly, she raised her hand. With one finger, she drew a simple shape on the floor, a circle with a line. Through it, Lin froze. I've seen that before, she whispered. It was the symbol of the null star, an ancient warning of full extinction. A mark that meant the end of all light. Eva looked back at her, still silent. But the message was clear. It's already started. Outside the cell, alarms suddenly flared across Blackrock Command. A report came through from the Deep Space Relay Network. Colonel Brandt read it out loud. Sector D-14, ... gone. Not destroyed, just ... gone. Lin rushed out of the cell. What do you mean gone? No readings? No planet? No sun? It's just ... Raced, Brandt said. A second alert popped up. Then a third. Whole systems vanishing, without sound, without light, without reason. Brandt stared. At the growing black spots on the star map, it's the void, he whispered. It's real. Back in Cell 1, Eva stood. Her mark began to glow again, deep red now. She walked to the wall, placed her hand on it, and the entire cell powered down lights. Cameras, all of it. Lin and Brandt rushed back. But the doors wouldn't open. Suddenly, lights blinked once, then opened again. Eva was standing in the hallway. Free, but touched. Guards raised their weapons out of reflex. She lifted a hand and they lowered them, like they had no choice. General Lin met her outside the chamber. "Where are you going?" Eva looked at the ceiling, where the star map now displayed more blacked-out systems. She finally spoke. Just 3 words, "To the edge." Lin blinked. "You're going there?" "Alone." Eva nodded. "The machines won't follow," Lin said. "They're not meant to," Eva replied. She walked past them. Down the long corridor to the hangar, a voice from the speakers asked, "Why not stay and help Earth defend?" Eva turned her head slightly. "Because Earth isn't ready." She was gone. Her ship launched silently. No engine noise, no trail, just a small shadow moving toward the stars. Inside, she closed her eyes. She wasn't afraid. Not of what was. Coming not of what she was. She had remembered now in the dark edges of her mind. The lost history returned. The flame wasn't created, it was called, by the universe itself, every few thousand years. When the light dimmed too far, it returned. She was its carrier. And now, she had to walk into the darkness alone, because no one else could. Back on Earth, Brant and Lin watched her signal fade. She could have taken command, Brant said. Could have forced the galaxy to serve her. But she didn't, Lin replied. Why? Lin looked at the fading star map. Because she doesn't want control, she whispered. She wants hope. Brant stared at the screen and the blackness, slowly spreading across the galaxy. Do you think she can stop it? Lin didn't answer, because deep down, she wasn't sure, far beyond known space. Ava's ship moved through a region where stars no longer shined. Only black, no signals, no time, just silence. She stepped out of the ship onto a floating platform. No gravity, no air, no ground. Only stars behind her, and darkness ahead. And from that dark came a shape. It wasn't solid. It wasn't alive, but it was aware. She felt it. It had no eyes, but it saw her. No mouth, but it screamed inside her mind. She took a breath. The mark on her neck flared like a dying sun, and the blackness paused as if even it remembered her. The cold between stars was silent. No planets, no moons, no light. Eva stood alone on the platform outside her small ship. The space around her was not just empty, it felt wrong, like something ancient and hollow waited just beyond her reach. She felt its eyes. It's not physical eyes, but something that saw her. Something that remembered her mark. Her mark pulsed. Not from heat or electricity, but from memory. From something. Deep beneath time, she placed her fingers on it. And this time, it answered back on Earth. General Lin and Colonel Brant were deep inside. The archives that the two of them stood before an ancient relic sealed behind glass. It looked like a broken piece of armor, black and smooth, but humming with power. On its side was a faint image almost burned into the surface. The same symbol that Eva wore. A curved flame with a line cutting through the center. Lin whispered, "We always thought it was human-made. Military biotech. Advanced science." "Now I'm sure," Brant finished for her. "It's not." He reached into a side panel and pulled out a scroll. An actual scroll made of star paper. From one of the oldest ruins Earth ever uncovered on Mars. The writing was not human. It curved like smoke and flame, the translation screen read, "When the light becomes too loud, the dark wakes." But in the center of all war, the flame waits in silence. The mark is not earned. It is chosen by the first forge, not of flesh, not of metal, but of memory. Far beyond Earth, Eva closed her eyes. The stars were gone now. The platform she stood on floated inside a dark cloud that swallowed all energy. Even time felt different here, slow, thick, heavy. Her mark glowed brighter, and then it happened. Voice filled her mind. Not a sound, but a feeling. You carry it, but you do not understand it. She didn't move. She didn't blink, but in her mind she replied, "I don't have to understand. I just have to stop you." The voice laughed, not cruel, but deep, endless. "You think the mark makes you strong? It makes you hollow. It was not made for your kind." She looked down at her hand. The mark began to shift, slowly changing its shape. Flame became eye. Eye became key. Key became. Horage in her body shivered. Not from fear, but from truth. This wasn't technology, this wasn't magic, it was something older than both, in the secret vault beneath the Terran Council Tower. Lynn and Brant stood before the final room. Only two people in all of Earth's history had ever entered it. Brant spoke softly. This is where we found it. The first one, the original mark. The thick doors opened. Inside was a giant chamber of stone and metal, dug from under the Earth's crust, and in the center floated a single fragment of unknown material. It glowed faintly red. Not human, not alien, just other. The same flame symbol hovered above it in the air. The room hummed. Brant spoke. When we tried to scan it, every AI we sent shut itself down, the same way the drones did when Eva walked through their networks. Lynn asked the question both feared. Then what gave her the mark? Brant answered quietly. We didn't give it to her, chose her, out in the void. Eva finally understood. The flame wasn't a gift, it was a responsibility. Millions of years ago, before the first empires, before stars even had names, there was a forge. It wasn't a place, it wasn't a being, it was a will, a memory, and when great darkness came, the forge lit a single flame, one light, one bearer, not to fight with ships or armies, but to remind the universe what it feared most, the one who doesn't run. Ava's eyes glowed now, not because of the mark, but because she remembered all the previous carriers, all the past battles, all the silent wars, never written in books. And now it was her turn. The void moved, not with sound, not with shape, but with pressure. It tried to crush her thoughts. Fill her mind with fear, but her mark burned hotter. You cannot stop what is endless, the void said. No, she answered, but I can light the match. Suddenly, the mark on her neck flashed white, not red, not gold. White, pure. And from that single flash, the darkness screamed. Not in pain, but in recognition. It remembered the first carrier, and it feared the new one. Back on Earth, machines everywhere, powered on by themselves. Old satellites, ancient probes, buried vaults. They all sent one signal. The forge has returned. General Lin stood before the Galactic. Screen dot stars were vanishing one by one. But something had changed. In the middle of the map, a single system pulsed. Not red, not black, but white. Brant stared. She's fighting it. No, Lynn said. Reminding it, inside the void, Eva stepped forward. The black storm shifted. It didn't want her to come closer. She raised her hand. The mark lit the space around her. A circle of fire burned away the dark. And for the first time, the void moved back. It didn't understand her because she wasn't a weapon. She was a memory of all who stood, lone, and never gave up. One human, chosen by something the universe forgot, carrying a mark. No one understood, but every being feared, and it was just the beginning. The stars trembled. Across the galaxy, ancient sensors lit up. Old machines, long buried or forgotten, turned on by themselves. Satellites buzzed, warning lights blinked, even AI networks that had stayed offline for centuries now spoke in one voice: the flame has returned. But no one on Earth fully understood what that meant. Not yet. General Lin stood in the command room at Terran High Command, watching the live star map. The dark wave, the void, was moving slower now, not stopped, but hesitant, pulling back in places, voiding one particular signal that pulsed from deep space. Eva, she's still alive, Lynn whispered. Colonel Brant stood beside her. More than that, she's fighting it. Another officer rushed in. Ma'am, we're getting signals from 35 colonies. Old defense towers just activated. They all use forgotten tech systems we never built. Brant leaned forward. Ours? No, sir, the officer said. We believe. They're hers. Everyone stared at the screen. A soft sound echoed through the speakers. A deep hum, low and powerful. not mechanical, not language, just presence. Then came the words, not spoken, but burned into every system across Earth. She walks the stars. Again, Earth's guardian has returned. On the far edge of the galaxy, in a place where light barely touched, Eva stood alone. Her boots pressed into dark stone. No sound, no wind, no air. Just her heartbeat and her glowing mark. She had not slept in days, had not eaten. Yet she stood strong. The void floated ahead of her like a storm with no shape. It shifted, stretched, and pulsed, trying to understand her. Trying to speak, but she didn't listen. Because she wasn't there to negotiate. She was there to stand. Her mind burned with memories. Not just hers, but those of the carriers who came. Before, humans, non-humans, shapes of light, beings of dust, all chosen by the Forge. All of them had stood at this edge. Before her, some won, some vanished, but none ran, and neither would she. The void finally responded. A wave of pressure slammed into her body. Gravity twisted, space bent. Time slowed. Eva dropped to one knee. Blood from her nose hit the stone and vanished. But she didn't scream. She didn't fall. She whispered, "Is that all?" Her mark blazed to life. Bright gold. Burning white at the edges, and in a flash, everything around her exploded in fire-not flames of heat. But light. The void flinched. It tried to vanish, but the mark followed it. Back on Earth, billions watched the sky as a strange event unfolded. The stars. Once faint, now burned brighter. Auroras painted the skies of every planet, even those without an atmosphere. People stopped what they were doing. Children pointed. Elders wept. They didn't know her name, but deep inside, they felt it. Someone was protecting them. Inside Blackrock Command, Brant studied the new energy readings. He turned to Lynn. This market's not technology, not magic. It's memory turned into force. A living signal, and Earth. It was chosen. Lynn asked, "Why Earth?" Brant answered, "Because when the galaxy gave up, Earth kept fighting." She nodded and smiled. Sounds like her. The void screamed again, without sound, without words, but Eva felt it. It was afraid now. It didn't understand why this small human wouldn't break. Why her body didn't give in. Why her mind wouldn't collapse. Because it didn't know.
How?
Her story. Didn't know what it meant to grow up in war, to lose family, to survive betrayal, to be forgotten by your own people, and to rise anyway. Not for glory, but because no one else would. Her ship, hovering nearby, opened its doors. Eva walked toward it slowly. Her body shook, her hands bled, but her eyes were calm. She stepped inside and looked back at the swirling dark. The void tried one last time to speak. "Why do you fight?" she answered, with the only truth that mattered. "Because I remember who I am." And she closed the door. The moment she left, the void pulled back, not defeated, but warned. It now understood something dangerous. The carriers weren't chosen for power, they were chosen for their refusal to kneel. Hours later, her ship landed quietly in Earth's orbit. She didn't send a message, didn't ask for permission, she just returned. The flame mark on her neck flickered. Soft. Gold now. Not pulsing, just steady. Earth's systems didn't lock onto her as a threat. They opened for her. All of them. She flew past orbital weapons, satellite defenses, AI, warning systems, and every single one shut down in respect. She landed in a remote part of the Himalayas, where the ancient Forge first called to her years ago. No cameras, no news, just snow and silence. A child was the first to see her. A boy, no more than 10, gathering firewood with his older sister. He froze as Eva stepped out of her ship. She didn't speak. The boy stared at her glowing mark wide-eyed. "Are you an angel?" he asked. Eva smiled. No, she whispered. Just tired. She placed her hand on his head, and for a brief second, he saw the stars. Back at Terran, High Command. All systems flashed the same words again. Earth's silent guardian has returned. General Lin stared at the screen. She doesn't need parades, Brant said. She doesn't need medals. No, Lin said. But we owe her everything. Brant looked out the window at the stars. She won't stay, he said. She never does. Lin nodded slowly, but while she walks, the galaxy remembers. That night, across thousands of worlds, people who had never met her spoke her story. She had no title, no army, no flag, but they all knew the truth. When the stars began to fall, when the machines shut down, when the galaxy holds its breath, she walks, and nothing dares follow. The Endy.